Welcome back to episode 4 of the Tactical Podcast with Zachariah, sort of post Champions League final. I won't waste any time, Zach. Let's get straight into it. Sort of just talk me through yesterday. What happened? How do you feel?
Well, I'll start off with how do I feel? I feel good because we played a game better than I expected. I think we should have won. We I wouldn't say dominated, but we played better than City. We made it difficult for City. I think City didn't even expect us. Was surprised at how well we played,
Yeah,
especially first half. Ultimately, I mean, the way we set up was what was expected, and we mentioned that in the podcast. I think the midfield going man to man, the front two pressing the centre
yeah,
backs, basically forcing the centre backs, forcing City to play out wide to Ake or to Akanji. Both of them struggled against Inter's press, mainly namely the 2v1 overloads.
mm,
Um, and then obviously the idea, I think City, what they were trying to do is obviously they wanted to make Stones the free man, and obviously I said in the last episode that the key aim or the way of Inter winning this game is to
yeah,
control the box midfield. It looked more like a diamond than a box, so I think they tried to. I think City tried to address Inter's approach by creating a diamond, leaving John Stones free. But John Stones playing in the most advanced position out of that midfield four was very problematic. He looked like he struggled at times. Didn't really pose much of a threat, I must say. On the other side, you had De Bruyne slightly wide on the left. Gundogan as a number 10, although he was quite quiet.
mm,
I think things did change, to be fair, when De Bruyne came off injured, which is a bit of a sad thing to say because he is a great player, and to have two Champions League finals, um, off due to injury, it is peak for him. But
yeah.
Foden playing between the lines and make himself available in a nuisance was a big difference. Made a better, bigger difference for City, I guess. Even though I still think Foden could have made those runs, those darting runs, those diagonal runs out wide from
Mm.
inside.
How
Um,
do you think the first half went? How do you think in terms of the first half? So obviously, I think I'll put a bit of context. I think a lot of people wrote off sort of in Inter Milan, especially sort of in English media. Everyone thought it would be a bit of a sort of trouncing, and there wasn't really any expectation for Inter Milan to put up a fight. And I think the first half shocked a lot of people. So what did Inter Milan do in that first half that stifled Manchester City?
well, so Haaland didn't get involved in the game at all. He tried to, even if when he tried to drop deep, like he did it, a couple of times, and that's his kind of variety to his game, if you like,
Mm,
especially in the second half of City's season. Even when he dropped in deep,
mm,
Acerbi was very tight on him, and it made it very difficult for him. Dumfries was controlling Grealish. Barella was joining late to the press just to support the front line. Um, I think they just controlled everything. It made it very difficult. And as I said, inevitably there would be a free man, and it was Stones, but Stones didn't get any support. He was isolated, and when he did get the ball, he was very uncomfortable. He couldn't receive the ball on the turn or whatever. It was quite
yeah,
slow on the ball. Yeah, so that's what I think. I think Inter were just very, very aggressive in their man marking approach. It wasn't sustainable, and they
mm,
did have chances, and they should have taken those chances better. I think decision making was the biggest problem for Inter and the reason why they lost. I mean, I think Akanji struggled a lot, and he was vulnerable to Martinez's press. Even the goalkeeper Edison's distribution was a bit poor as well, to be fair. And yeah, and the fact that I like the way that Inter's approached the game because they let Ake have the ball out wide the most, and he didn't really do anything with it, and they let Stones be the free man, and the idea for Stones to receive those balls from Ake or those diagonals, but it's too risky to do that because they know that if that happens, Inter's defense mainly will just come and just collect those balls quite easily and then push up for the transition. So it was just a difficult game for Man City, and they haven't received haven't seen it an opposition of that kind of playing that kind of game before. The physicality and the intensity they haven't it's been unmatched. So it took them by surprise. They were very nervous in possession. Yeah,
100%.
and they were just struggling to build up play. I think build up was a real problem for City, and especially because there was no rotation. The only person that kind of changed his position, as I said, was Stones pushing up as a right, even a right winger at times, or a right-sided midfielder. And obviously, because of that, because of De Bruyne's injury, Foden played in the kind of number 10 or the center attacking midfield position, and Gundogan played a bit out wide on the left. But other than that, they looked bereft of ideas. So that's what happened in the first half. Second half, things changed, obviously.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think first half City looked out of ideas, really. I mean, Inter were playing at their tempo, at their pace, and I think they brought City down to that tempo and pace, and that's where Inter were most dangerous. They were hitting they were finding a lot of space. They were hitting City on the counter, not too devastating effect, but enough to worry City. I think there was one point where um, I don't know who it was. I think it was Brozovic switched the ball all the way to Dumfries, and he was in acres of space. If you could either pick out a cross or get to the byline and get a ball in, it would have been really sort of
I think
dangerous for City.
that's the main issue with Inter, is that I think I said in the last podcast, or it's been well documented, is that Inter cross a lot and they switch the play a lot. They love their diagonals, and they often do it not direct diagonals, but they kind of, let's say Darmian passes to Brozovic, and then Brozovic passes it out to whoever, to Dumfries, for example, or the other way around. If you have Bastoni passing to, I don't know, Brozovic, and then Brozovic passing it out to Martinez or whatever. He didn't have that in the game. It was really bizarre. And when it did happen, Dumfries hesitated and he passed backwards, and then somehow it was passed back to then Brozovic, who then, crossed the ball quite poorly. And that's another issue, is the execution was very poor as well. The crosses were so poor, very tamed.
Yeah.
Very frustrating. And the funny thing is that Onana made a big difference in Inter's deep build-up, because he played like an extra centre back, and obviously you want to press Onana because you press him and he's press resistant. You create space for him to then ping the ball over the top. So he was pinging balls out wide to the wing backs mainly, but the wing backs didn't progress the ball. The wing backs didn't switch the play. It was just a bit frustrating. Onur looked like he was focusing more on the pressing side and controlling Rodri rather than being an outlet for himself, and that was frustrating as well. So Inter, I think, by being too intense or extreme on one side, kind of undermined their in possession phase. So that was a bit of a shame.
100%, and looking at that, but I still think going into half time, Inzaghi's the happier manager. I think Inter are closer to their game plan than City are closer to theirs. I think Pep won't be happy going into half time. So second half comes around. What changes in that second half? What's sort of the difference? I'll say it was the legs. I think more than anything. What do you think?
That was the main issue, wasn't it? And that we discussed in the last episode about whether Inter can sustain that man marking approach for 90 minutes. And in Italy, against lesser opposition, or just in Italian football, by Italian football standards, I think they can get away with that. But against Man City, it's really difficult. And I think as soon as Dzeko's legs went, and I remember that Inzaghi had to go at him for not pressing when the ball went past Martinez. I think there was a miscommunication. I thought Dzeko thought Martinez was going to press and get the ball, but it was actually meant to be Dzeko. And as soon as that miscommunication crept in, and then Dzeko was injured, then he realized actually it's just too much strain on the team, putting too much strain on the team. And then Lukaku came on, and he was a different proposition. I mean, he was, as he said, he had duels with Diaz, and he went pulled out wide and tried to create space for the midfield, but it introduced other problems as well. Inter, yes, were more involved in the play, and because they were chasing the game at that point. But again, you would think if Dzeko was in that situation instead of Lukaku, those chances will be going in. He will be more productive, more clinical in the final third. So it's just unfortunate timing, really, injury, because maybe people could even say that the game first half suited Lukaku more than Dzeko, and the game second half suited Dzeko more than Lukaku. Yeah. It's all hindsight, unfortunately. And then Çalhanoğlu came off, and obviously you want balls, and then balls were there was an increased volume of balls into the box.
Yeah,
he would have been ideal for that.
Yeah.
So it's just frustrating, really, how things just pan out, and Inter became more open and chasing the game, and that allowed City to kind of flood the gaps between the lines, if you like. And City then had more possession and they were able to control the game better. They were able to set the tempo better. They were able to have overloads and overlaps out wide, and having passing options, triangles out wide. And it was difficult for the likes of DeMarco, for the likes of Bastoni, who jumped in for that goal that City scored. And had he just held the line, that wouldn't have happened. Or maybe if Martinez got onto Akanji earlier on, as soon as he entered into Inter's half, maybe he would have been able to have counted, and who knows what would have happened. So it's just all if buts and maybes, and it's frustrating when you think about it. But there's nothing really that you can fault Inter for generally, given the circumstances and the expectation.
Yeah, no. I think it was a game of sort of decision making from Inter. I thought they did everything apart from the final ball, be it the cross, the shot, even sort of the decision making in the subs. I thought was a bit odd. Obviously, I thought the game time was good for Inzaghi, but as I said, I didn't understand Calhanoglu coming off, for example. I think sort of, yes, he didn't have a good game at all, to be honest. I thought he was quite poor, and as you said, sort of wasn't controlling the game as he normally does for Inter Milan. But taking him off, sort of, especially when he has the ability to score from nothing, has the ability to create from nothing. I don't know. When you're chasing a goal, he's not the person to bring off. I thought maybe Barella should have come off instead, who seemed to have quite a poor game. I don't think has that sort of that one moment in him like a Calhanoglu does. I thought that was a bit odd. I thought obviously there was a big debate within Inter Milan circles about who'd be starting, Lukaku or Dzeko. And it turns out actually it probably should have been the other way around, because if Dzeko gets that chance and Lukaku gets that, I'll be honest, I thought it was a horrendous miss. I think 8 yards out, the whole goal to aim at, that's the one place you don't put it. And he's put it there. Yeah, I think if Dzeko is on the pitch for that and he's in that position, he scores that. And I think I just want to touch on Lukaku's performance. I thought Lukaku was very disappointing. I'll be totally honest. I think he came on. Yes, he stretched the defense a little bit, but I think when you come on with fresh legs, chasing a goal, you've got to impose yourself on the game. And I thought he let Diaz win every header comfortably. To be honest, Diaz was just every time Onana went long, it was cleanly won by Diaz. Lukaku wasn't using his body. And I think it's just little things like that I get frustrated with, especially when you're a big striker. Like, you're big for a reason. Do something with your body. Just even if it's barging into man and giving away a foul, just let him know you're there and let him know he's in for a game. He just didn't do that. And yeah, I mean, getting in front of DeMarco's header, missing that 7-8 yarder, I think, yeah, it wasn't the best night for Lukaku, to be honest.
Yeah, there's been a running irony with Inzaghi and his subs, that he often substitutes players that get yellow cards, and the biggest irony is obviously the Bastoni getting subbed off 35 minutes against Atalanta after following a booking, and everyone got mad at Inzaghi for that one, and he's tried to rectify that and play players on with bookings. I mean, Gagliardini was one against Napoli. He was booked, and he made multiple fouls, to be fair. And there were multiple opportunities for Inzaghi to sub him off, and he didn't. And ultimately, he got a red card, and Inter were down to 10 men, and they lost the game. Against Napoli, I think it was 3-1. So, yeah, he should have subbed off Barella, but I think that plays to his mind that I'm just going to take off someone because he's got a yellow card. But I think Barella was just generally poor. I think his pressing was okay. His intensity was there. I just think, I don't know, something was missing with him. I think Brozovic had to do a lot of shuffling for him on his behalf. I just think Barella was a bit out of position at times and out of sync with certain pressing schemes. And in the second half, he looked like nowhere to be seen, to be fair. He had more of the ball, but he wasn't doing anything with it. So, yeah, he should have come off. And obviously, as you said, the game played into Calhanoglu's hands. And unfortunately, his unconvincing first half, perhaps because he was instructed to press really tight on Rodri, kind of came at an expense for him, which is a shame, especially in his hometown or in his country. Yeah, Lukaku's interesting one because again, it's just a marriage of inconvenience. I mean, he comes on and Inter start to have more of the ball in the final third, and yet you could say he created chances or got involved more than Dzeko did. But then you'd say if Dzeko was in that position, he would have done a lot more, and it's a bit unfair on Dzeko to kind of criticize him for what he did, given that he wasn't in those situations. I mean, Lukaku really, he's got a bit of histories against him because in the Europa League final against Sevilla, he scored an own goal in which ultimately cost us the final, and then he scored, and here he denies a goal scoring opportunity and then heads it right at Ederson, again costing us a final. I don't want to say it's on him, and I'm quite, I've got a bit of a soft spot for Lukaku. I'm a bit, benefit of the doubt with him because of what he's done for Inter, and his goal scoring record is very impressive, generally speaking. But I just feel like, the substitutions worked against Inzaghi, even though at that time you could understand what he was trying to do. But the way the game panned out, it just looks very, it looks quite, it was a bit self-harming, to be fair.
100%. So what's sort of next for Inter after this? Sort of just touch on sort of what's Inzaghi's sort of future. Obviously, is he staying? What's the plans going forward? Because obviously, you wouldn't want this to be sort of a flash in the pan. You'd want to build on this, or obviously get into the Champions League final. You haven't won it, but getting there is an achievement in itself. Obviously, when that wasn't expected at the start of the season, and what's sort of the plans going forward? How are Inter going to build on this? Hopefully,
I mean, 100 million euros goes a long way, I guess, for that Champions League run, but most of it will be going to repay debts incurred over the last, since COVID, really. And I think that's a priority because they have to pay around 220 million euros of debt by the end of the summer. Otherwise, they will default on their debts. So that is a problem in itself. So they have to get their house in order. It might mean further concessions when it comes to transfers for the likes of Martinez, where I'm hearing that in Real Madrid are interested in him to be possibly a replacement for Benzema. I don't know if he's at, I think we've seen for that final, he's not at that level. And I did say that he's not someone who can lead the line and carry that responsibility.
Yeah, he can't. His link-up play is non-existent, I'll be honest. I don't think his link-up play is there.
Yeah, he plays off better. He plays better in a 2, I think, where he can focus on one side, or as a bit of interplay rather than doing it all on his own. And I think we've seen that with Argentina as well. So Onana looks like the most likely to leave. Again, who would we get for him? I don't know. To replace him, I don't know. Although I think he's had an incredible season. Sorry, I don't know whether he will be able to match that expectation next season, going into next season. I think also is focusing on pinning down, players Barella and Bastoni, namely, their contracts are about to expire next season. So getting them their contracts renewed would be important, and that £100 million might help with the wage bill, I guess. Dzeko possibly going to Fenerbahce, which I can see personally. I think he definitely suits Fenerbahce or a Turkish club of that ilk. Galatasaray, maybe. I don't know. He's very, very good. We can get Icardi back. Who knows? But no. Well, I'm hearing Roma. To be fair, if he goes to Roma with Dybala, that would be absolutely delicious. I'll be honest with you. It'll be
He's too old, man. He needs to get that Saudi contract, brother. He needs to get Saudi
alternative to Abraham. I think it would be a good option for Roma. I think because Abraham's kind of been quite frustrating this season, but Lotti's not.
Abraham's out until 2024,
and he's also out as well. So actually, it would be good to get Icardi if they can. But joking aside, also Acerbi's contract is probably up for a permanent. Acerbi's loan will be most likely become a permanent. Lukaku is also the interesting one. What are Inter going to do with Lukaku? I don't know. Really.
I think they can do better. As I said, I think Inter can pick up a striker.
For me, I think he's I think he's redeemed himself. He's done a good job generally.
This season, you think he's redeemed himself?
Post World Cup, where it's been a very difficult first half of the season for him. I think second half of the season he has been good. I think personally, I think most Inter Milan fans would agree. But I
Is
think
his
that's
sort of
the
output worth the
no, no.
money we're
I think
putting?
the ship has sailed. That's what I was trying to say. I think he's
Yeah,
taken us to. I wouldn't say taken us, but being part of that Champions League run. I
yeah,
think he's done everything that he can. Really, we got the best out of him. We maximized his abilities. So I think it would be. I think it is Chelsea's responsibility now. You know, they are now the custodians of Lukaku. So we will give Lukaku back to Chelsea, and then we'll focus on someone else in the league. I don't know who would we get. It depends whether both Martinez and Lukaku goes,
yeah,
whether Martinez stays. So we don't know.
yeah.
Um,
No, it's
yeah,
interesting. It's
it's
something to keep
interesting.
at.
Yeah, it also another issue with Inter is that we have an aging squad as well. So
Mm,
we do want to try and get a lot of young blood in into that team. So how we're going to do that, who we're going to sign, I don't actually know. It's an important summer, and I hope I'm confident Inzaghi will stay and he's happy. He's the magic and manage constraints we've seen. I hope he does get back though, because he does deserve it following this season. And given that performance in itself, I think it's just proof of how good really he is. And yeah, he's
yeah,
proven he's redeemed himself to me as well, because I was at one point Inzaghi out
yeah,
following I think one win in 6 games, and we were just at the bottom. We were probably fourth or fifth in the league, so we were very worried at that point. But he's redeemed himself.
yeah,
Does he want to work under that pressure, that kind of pressure cooker environment? I don't know. He seems quite tired from how he's come
yeah.
across in recent interviews. So I don't know. I mean, finals, 4 trophies is pretty good. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to complain. So yeah, we shall see how the future holds.
Yeah, no, no, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. I think we'll see what Inter Milan do in the summer and see how the season goes next year. Personally, I expect him to win it next year. To be honest,
Yeah.
I think Napoli will drop off, especially with Champions League football and going again with that team. Let's see who they keep from
Without
that team.
Spalletti as well, who's just
Yeah, exactly. Without
recently
Spalletti,
left.
I can't see them
Yeah.
going
Osimhen might
again.
leave. Kim J is very likely to leave, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think we'll
I
see
think,
what Juventus do. I think Juventus is an interesting one, but I think they're in a bit of turmoil as well. I think
yeah, but
yeah, I think I've read that sort of Allegri to Saudi might be a thing.
it seems like everyone's going to Saudi these
Yeah, I
days.
know, I know. Tell me about it,
It
but
feels-
we'll see what happens there. But I think Inter should be up there. I think AC Milan are in a rebuild. I don't think Lazio will. I think they'll be maybe top four, but I don't think they'll challenge for titles. I don't think they have the quality. I think
Yeah, they need backing, and they're not going to
yeah,
get backing. But
exactly.
also Champions League football, they
So I
struggle
think
in Europe under Sarri, so I don't know how it's
exactly.
going to
So I think
work.
it's there for Inter to take. Really, I think
Should
sort
be.
of
I don't know how
exactly.
Milan's situation as well. We can't forget Milan, obviously, not because
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
rivals,
yeah,
because
exactly. No,
Maldini
I
has been
think they're in a
sacked.
rebuild. I think they're in quite a transition period with the second of Maldini, and the
Disgruntled
system
players as
and
well, like
yeah,
Leao and
exactly,
Mannion and Teo Hernandez. I mean, Leao just recently signed his contract as well, and he feels a bit misled. So
exactly, bro,
we got given the
exactly,
number
bro.
10. I don't know what that's enough to for him to be happy, but
Nah, come on, man. It's just a number at the end of the day, brother. But
it
but
has
yeah,
historical value.
yeah,
Um,
but come on,
yeah.
come
I
on.
don't know. There will be some surprises. I think there will be contenders to. I mean, Atalanta, how they might do in their next
I think it's
regeneration
there for Inter.
phase.
If Inter have a good window, it's there for them.
It should
I'd
be.
keep,
It should be, but
I'd keep Inzaghi. If I was Inter, I'd keep Inzaghi
oh yeah, yeah,
and back him
definitely.
properly this summer. Get him who he wants, and the title's there. I think I really do think it's a good opportunity for Inter Milan.
Definitely. I mean, he should have really won the Scudetto last season. This season, okay, we tailed off quite early on, quite poorly, so that's fair enough. Next season, given the expectation as well, given that we've been in a Champions League final, it's just going to only increase. So the Scudetto is a must now. It's a now or never, do or die moment. So it has to be. If he doesn't win the Scudetto, I think his contract's coming up as well. So I think he might be an amicable split. So yeah, I think next year we'll decide a lot of things. We'll see with Inter how Inter what will be the state of affairs at Inter. But yeah, I mean this is the problem with finals, isn't it? When you reach that pinnacle and you don't win it, and the drops we've seen it with Spurs, we've seen it with other clubs who have not
Mm.
been were not expected to get to that stage. How they kind of bounce back from those highs, it's difficult.
Yeah,
The rules of those highs,
no,
right? So it's
yeah, no,
difficult.
def 100%, 100%. So yeah,
Yeah.
brother, I think we'll call it end to this one. I think
Yeah.
unfortunately it didn't end how you know, like we both wanted it to be more so you. Obviously, that's your club. Um,
Yeah.
but I think bigger and better things. I think, yeah, I think bigger and
Yeah,
better
well,
things.
Pep has finally done it. He got his treble. He's finally
Yeah,
completed football,
100%.
14 years later or so. So good for him.
Yeah.
And
So
he's got his revenge back on Inter. So that's
yeah,
nice.
hopefully, I think hopefully he loses a bit of motivation or just moves on.
Yeah.
I think
Brazil's calling. Brazil's
that's the only silver lining maybe I'm taking from it. So yeah,
calling.
we'll see what happens. I think in terms of the tactical podcast, I think we've got quite a bit lined up over the coming
I think we
months.
should give a shout out to West Ham, your boyhood club, West Ham.
Oh yeah, big up West Ham. I was at the parade, so
Yeah.
big up
He
to
was
West
actually
Ham as
on the
well.
bus. He was on the bus. He was
100%. I was there. I was
with
there.
the players.
I contact with Mark Noble. We'll recognize Will,
Yeah.
but yeah,
As he was breaching or violating Canning Town bylaws. So yeah.
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 So
They
yeah,
got
I think
Ben Rama as well, North African excellence.
100%,
Yeah,
100%.
podcast.
So yeah, we'll sort of be dropping consistently over the next few months. I'm personally I'm a bit fatigued for this season. It's been a long season, I think. Especially the last few weeks, I've just switched off really. I haven't really been interested. It'd be good to get some sort of
Europa
grass
League.
going and stuff like that. Yeah, I haven't really been switched on at all.
Bro, you
So
have to, I think sympathy needs to come to me. I started the season watching United lose 4-0 to Brentford. I then go to Qatar and see Morocco go through a World Cup run never experienced by an African country before. I then see Inter Milan get to a final. Meanwhile, I see United lose 7-0 to Liverpool whilst away. I mean, I've had it quite difficult, to be fair, I'm not going to lie. And I've also seen United in 2 cup finals. I know exactly. It says 2 on your screen. You might need to write that down. But yeah, United in 2 cup finals. And then I see City win a treble at the expense of both of my clubs, who both have won trebles in the past. So it's just a bit too much for me as well,
yeah, I
If I
think
need
it's good to maybe take a little break from
We'll talk about something that's a bit
current
more
football. Yeah,
palatable, like
like drafts
draft
and
and
things like
yeah,
that, and maybe top fives of all time and stuff like
yeah,
that.
stuff like that.
So yeah,
That's where
I think
the debate really, the discussion really gets
100%.
going. Yeah,
Anyways, thank you everyone for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. Help us sort of get going in the algorithm and do what you can to help us. Obviously, we're starting the channel, and any little comment or like is much appreciated. So
yeah.
thank
And
you
we
guys.
appreciate the views, but the likes and the comments really
Yeah.
make a big difference, and the subscribe as well. And let your friends and family know as well. It'd be really nice to get their
And
support and
get
buy
your
well.
mom, your dad, granddad, grandmom, the cat, the dog, the 4-year-old. Get them all on the channel. Anyone's welcome. So we keep
A
it
family-friendly, topical,
exactly
um,
100%,
podcast that you can watch over dinner. So don't worry,
100%.
we won't embarrass you, put you in uncomfortable situations. So we're always on our best behavior, and we're always professionals. So that be that be assured for you guys. Yeah, but
Yeah, yeah. Of course. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
take care, everyone.
All right.
Ciao, ciao.